It was that drifting that set me on the path to find it in the first place, to even articulate that idea. I had what a lot of people would be considered sort of a good life, as living the proverbial American dream. And yet I'd lost my passion for that and didn't want to wake up and go to work anymore.
We live in a culture obsessed with optimization. We optimize our schedules, our diets, and our careers. Yet burnout and disengagement are at record highs. Simon Sinek, an ethnographer and leadership expert, argues that we have fundamentally misunderstood the metric of a successful life. It isn't about what you achieve, it's about who you serve. This is Synthesize, where we turn long podcast conversations into their most important ideas. We are taught from childhood that life is a series of finish lines. Get the grade, get the job, win the medal. But what happens when you cross the finish line and the feeling of fulfillment doesn't last? We confuse winning with living. And when we treat life like a game to be won, we inevitably lose our way.
And their entire lives, from pretty young ages, every decision they're making is to help them advance this finite goal. And all of their relationships are, can you help me achieve my goal, right? And if you can no longer help me achieve my goal, I don't need you anymore as a coach or even a friend. And then when they achieve or don't achieve this thing and then can no longer compete for it, they realize they don't really have a lot of friends around them.
This is the danger of the finite mindset. When your relationships are transactional, based on whether someone can help you win, you isolate yourself. You might hold the medal, but you hold it alone. Fulfillment doesn't come from crossing a line. It comes from the people running next to you. In an attempt to cure this loneliness, many of us turn to the internet. We have been told that being vulnerable is the key to connection. But there is a massive difference between being vulnerable and putting on a performance. We have confused the difficult work of intimacy with the easy dopamine hit of attention.
There are others who comment on this as well. Brené Brown talks about this, where we have a young generation that has mistaken vulnerability and broadcast, right? Where you sit in your room by yourself, put your phone on record, and make a video of yourself crying because of the loss of a relationship, and then posting that on Instagram or Snapchat or YouTube or TikTok, right? And there's nothing vulnerable about that. You were by yourself, broadcasting to the world, live or videoed, it doesn't matter. Do that exact same thing with the person you hurt. That is way more difficult. That's vulnerability. That's really hard and requires practice, and we avoid it because it's difficult.
Broadcasting pain is safe. You control the edit, the angle, and the caption. Real vulnerability, looking someone in the eye and admitting a mistake, is dangerous. It requires risk. If you are only vulnerable when there is a camera present, you aren't building connection, you're building content. If broadcasting our problems doesn't give us purpose and winning medals doesn't give us peace, what does? The answer is counterintuitive. We spend our lives trying to help ourselves. Self-help, self-care, self-improvement. But true purpose is biologically wired to be about everyone but you.
And I think what gives our lives purpose is not to wake up every morning to learn meditation so that we can be present for ourselves, though that is valuable. What gives our lives purpose is to do these things for another. Deep feeling sense of purpose and meaning to one's life or to one's work only comes when those things are for another. And in my view, primarily for another, where our benefit is secondary.
This is the fundamental shift. You don't mediate just to calm your mind. You meditate so you don't snap at your spouse. You don't work out just to look good. You do it to have the energy to play with your kids. When you view your self-improvement as a service to the tribe, the discipline becomes easier because the why is bigger than your own ego. This philosophy of service is often completely absent in our workplaces. Most corporate structures are designed to protect the people at the top, not the people at the bottom. Sinek uses a vivid, somewhat cynical image to explain why CEOs are often the last people to know their company culture is toxic.
That's definitely something I'll implement.
That's called a tree of monkeys, by the way.
It's called
A tree of monkeys, which is all the people at the top looking down see only smiles, but all the people at the bottom looking up see only ashes.
When leaders look down, they see the curated smiles of middle management. When employees look up, they see the unsightly truth of power. If you are a leader, you must assume you are being lied to, not because your people are dishonest, but because the structure of your organization incentivizes survival over truth. When truth is suppressed, something dangerous happens. It's rarely a sudden explosion of corruption. Instead, it is a slow, creeping rot. Sinek calls this ethical fading, a psychological mechanism that allows good people to do terrible things without ever realizing they've crossed a line.
Well, there's this psychological phenomenon, I guess, called ethical fading, which can grip an organization's culture, where people within that culture become capable of making highly, highly unethical decisions, believing they were well within their own ethical frameworks. In order to meet or beat some financial projection, they raise the price of that essential drug 100%, 500%, 1,000%, 1,500%. Totally legal. There's nothing illegal about that. Really unethical.
Ethical fading thrives on euphemisms. We call firing people downsizing. We call spying data mining. We prioritize the short-term metric over the long-term human cost. It's not illegal, it's just inhuman. And eventually the humans decide they've had enough. This brings us to the current crisis in work, the Great Resignation. For decades, companies offered mediocrity and employees accepted it. We accepted jobs that were just fine. But Sinek argues that the pandemic broke the psychological contract that kept us trapped in mediocrity.
Well, why didn't you quit? Because the unknown was way scarier than fine. And so they made do with fine, and then COVID happened. And a lot of people were laid off. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people were furloughed. And we all kind of made it out okay. All of a sudden, the great unknown, a lot less scary. And so when you're offering me fine, I choose unknown. That's a better option. In fact, not only do I choose unknown, I'm going to wait until you fix fine.
Fine is no longer a retention strategy. The fear of the unknown, the primary leverage employers had, has evaporated. Workers have looked into the abyss and realized they can survive it. Companies that rely on fear or inertia to keep their people are finding that the cage door is open and the bird has already flown. So if we reject fine and we reject the finite goals of status and medals, what are we left with? How do we measure a successful life? It comes back to the idea of legacy. Not your name on a building, but the momentum you leave behind.
Let me rephrase the question for myself, which is, how will you know you lived a life worth living? It's kind of the same question, right? And the answer is because other people will pick up where I left up and continue without me. That I will have lived a life worth living if I can look back and say, it will keep going without me, because it doesn't need me.
The ultimate test of your work isn't what happens while you are there. It's what happens when you leave. If everything collapses without you, you didn't build a community. You built a cult of personality. We often think of purpose as a destination, a thing we find, but Simon Sinek suggests it is a practice. First, purpose is service. Your self-improvement only matters if it helps you show up for others. Second, vulnerability is not a broadcast. It is a quiet, difficult act of connection. And finally, fine is a trap. The unknown is no longer something to fear. It is an invitation to demand more than just a paycheck. The question isn't just, what do you do? The question is, if you stop doing it today, would anyone have the tools to carry it on? If this kind of breakdown helps you think differently, you'll probably enjoy the next video too.